regular meeting order. Clerk of the board, please call the roll.
Arencibia?
Present.
Emerald?
Here.
Lopez Zepeda?
Here.
Segura?
Here.
Aguirre?
Here.
This is point agenda where members of the public may address the board on matters posted for the special meeting and in accordance with Government Code Section 549, 54.3A. The board will provide an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the legislative body concerning any item that has been described in the notice for the meeting before or during consideration of that item. Each person wishing to address the item in closed session will have 2 minutes to do so.
There are no speakers.
No speakers. If there is no further communication, I will recess the meeting for consideration of the following closed session items as posted on the meeting notice. 3 of them, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, Government Code Section 54957. 2, the conference of legal counsel, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956. And 3, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. We will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Board meeting. All right, we will now hold the swearing-in ceremony for the 2023-24 Student Board Representative Isaiah Ringfield. Yay! All right, Isaiah, so we'll step forward and we'll. So, clerk of the board, please call roll.
Arencibia?
Present.
Emerald? Here. Lopez Zepeda?
Here.
Segura?
Here.
Aguirre?
Here.
Ringfield?
Here.
We'll now hold a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. The board met in closed session preceding this meeting, discussed the following issues. One, public employee dismissal, discipline, dismissal, release, Government Code Section 54957. Two, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Government Code, anticipated litigation, paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code Section 54956.9. Three, conference with labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6. The board took the following. Moved by Arencibia, seconded by Emerald, to approve the compulsory unpaid leave of absence for one classified employee with a vote of Segura, Arencibia, yes; Emerald, yes; Lopez Zepeda, yes; Segura, yes; Solis, absent. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the July 10th, 2023 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Ringfield?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Emerald? Yes. Lopez Zepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Outstanding. We'll now have a message from our superintendent, Dr. Moises Aguirre.
Thank you, President Segura. Since we've been on break, it'll be fairly brief. So this morning, we welcomed back our principals at a professional development experience. And as we discussed at the Labor Management Institute, we invited our labor partners to be there to make some brief introductions. There's a lot of folks who are new out there, and so make sure that we had an opportunity to do a mutual set of introductions. And secondly, just in getting to know Isaiah a little bit, we found out we have a little bit something in common. Both his family and my family have roots in the Imperial Valley, so that was kind of neat. Who knows, maybe I even know some of your family out there. So it's kind of neat. So other than that, again, looking forward to an exciting year this school year. We begin on July 19th and looking forward to this school year.
Thank you, Superintendent. So we'll now have a report from our board representative, Mr. Isaiah Ringfield. Sir?
Okay, so there was no ASB president's meeting as we've been on summer break, but also several of our presidents were attending the California Association of Directors of Activities Leadership Camp at UC Santa Barbara, along with myself, where we learned all the ways we can grow as leaders from middle and high schools alike internationally.
Thank you. We'll now provide an opportunity for any of the Labor Association's presidents to provide a report to the board. First, we'll have a report from SCA President Lucy Ugarte.
Good evening, President Segura, esteemed trustees, and Dr. Aguirre. I want to thank you for providing the designated space to address you all with our information and concerns that we have in our labor associations. It shows that the work that we started at the Labor Management Initiative is being acknowledged and acted on. I look forward to working through our conflicts productively with respect and in the best interest of everyone involved. I want to first commend Ms. Pedrosa and the entire HR department for working with SEA weekly since April 14th and multiple times a week since then to ensure that teachers are placed in positions before the beginning of the school year. Since June, I'm happy to report that 30 RIF teachers have regained their permanent status. For that, SEA is grateful. However, there's still work to be done. Returning each year as a temporary teacher is not only disheartening, but can be traumatizing. Working year after year for an establishment only to be let go at the end of every year and then having to wonder if you'll be picked up again for the next school year can do a number on a person's psyche. It's incredulous that after working for years, a person can have no seniority because they've been hired on a year-to-year basis. We have to do better. And I hope that we will work together to make sure that we continue to make those RIF teachers permanent. I know that you have heard about contract settlements across the county, and so have staff. If SUHSD wants to attract and maintain high-quality educators for our students, we have to be able to compete with our neighbors. Not only will we lose the teachers who are on temporary contracts each year, but we will lose permanent ones as well. Our students deserve the best educators. As discussed at LMI, communication needs improvement. Understandably, there are sensitive situations in which limited information can be shared, but how about just saying so? Hey, this is being investigated and we can only say this much goes much further than hearing nothing at all. 2 weeks ago, my colleague spoke about the data breach letters going out in error to people. And as far as I know, nothing has come out from the district saying it was district error, Equifax error, etc. Who do I call if I got the wrong letter? Instead, we were told that we shouldn't contact such and such a person. And that's because we just didn't know who to call, and if it's confusing. So if the district communicated, hey, those letters went out in error, and that was because the data got mixed up at this point, then that would have been better than hearing nothing at all. Straightforward and concise factual communication in a timely manner minimizes the spread of misinformation. And so while we appreciate working together, we have a long way to go with some of these areas as we talked about in Labor Management Initiative. Again, I want to thank you for the designated space to report to the board and the public, and I look forward to working toward an improved SUHSD for everyone, our students especially. Thank you.
Thank you, President Ugarte. Next, we'll have a report from SCGA President Michelle Beal.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Aguirre, and Mr. Ringfield. I'd first like to begin by welcoming our student representative, Isaiah Ringfield. It's a pleasure to have you here representing our student population. I look forward to learning about students' concerns on our campuses. I want to take this opportunity to thank the board and the superintendent for honoring the request made at LMI by the association presidents to include this portion on the agenda. As president of Sweetwater Counseling and Guidance Association, each month I bring forth items that not only directly affect SCGA members, but as well as students. While the items that I share are not always popular or well received by the board or superintendent, they are still relevant to how we as counselors perform our duties and are able to serve our students. The expectation from SCGA is that when we bring forth items of concern to the board and superintendent, that regardless of the item, we are treated with the same courtesy and respect that we extend to each one of you, and that we are treated with the same courtesy that you extend to other associations. As adults, we need to remember we are modeling for our students what positive and collaborative working relationships look like. Dr. Aguirre, I know that you and I have made this commitment to each other and have been actively working to continue to improve the working relationship between SUHSD and SCGA. I think we can both agree it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. It's leveling out, and it's still a work in progress. Counselors reported for their first day of work today, and the hope and the expectations was that we would be able to start the school year off rested and rejuvenated. Unfortunately, given that we still have some unfilled vacancies at some sites and confusion as to how to staff them, the enthusiasm was somewhat diminished. As counselors know that in order to open school and serve our students, some counselors will now have to assume extra duties. Of course, the SCGA's expectation is that any counselor who assumes duties above a 1.0 FTE will be compensated. However, more concerning is the fact that we're starting off the school year by overworking our counselors. Overworking counselors just sets up the year for a long school year. I understand that none of you sitting on the dais have ever held a counseling position, so I'm not quite sure if you understand exactly how much work goes into opening a school year and scheduling students into their courses. Counselors spend countless hours ensuring that each student's schedules meets their own individual needs while complying with contractual obligations from our association partners. It's an exhausting task, and it has to be completed in a short amount of time. In the next week or so, as you are making your rounds around campuses, I do encourage you to stop by the counseling centers and witness firsthand exactly how much work goes into opening of school and balancing classes. I think that once you witness it firsthand, you'll understand the importance of making sure that our counseling staffs are filled day one. And if it behooves you, just thank a counselor for the work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other Labor presidents who would like to report to the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to public communication. This is a point on the agenda where members of the public may address the board on any matter not on the agenda and have 3 minutes each to do so. Pursuant to board bylaw, the board may limit the time for public comment on any single topic to 20 minutes per topic. The Board of Trustees cannot legally take action on any or respond to any matters not posted on the public agenda, but will refer the matters to the superintendent's office for review and report. Thank you very much.
Kathleen Shears.
Good evening. President Segura, you look very dapper in that suit. Not many men could pull it off, but you...
Thank you, ma'am.
Perfect. Well, I have been advised certain members of the dais do not want to hear any more about the data breach. Unfortunately, the tax dollars you have spent, coupled with the impending lawsuit, are this community's monies, and therefore we are due answers. In past years, union leadership was depended upon to protect those they represent, their members, as a check and balance, as were our trustees. With the exception of Ms. Beal and a few other voices, there are no checks and balances. The lawsuit states Sweetwater has yet to release the number of students, parents, teachers, employees, and retirees involved. Why? A clearinghouse sending out multiple notifications to the wrong addresses and to the wrong persons. All states have legislation mandating proper procedure. Has Sweetwater followed the letter of the law? Have you notified the FDC in compliance with the health breach notification rule as it relates to personal health records? Was the breach covered by the HIPAA rule? Students with IEPs health information at risk. Have you contacted the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services? Why am I having to ask these questions? It's simple. because Sweetwater failed to notify their employees regarding these mandated courses of action. Let us consider, how long did it take you to acknowledge we had even been breached? Trustee Arancibia, you, sir, publicly praised the district for the manner in which the breach was handled. Were you and the other trustees alerted to the true facts, yet chose to keep silent as to the severity? Why the district continues to fail its employees, hiding behind secrecy and deceit, is mind-blowing. I've gone on record acknowledging many companies have been breached. Why Sweetwater chose from the very beginning to attempt to spin and downplay is more than concerning. The potential ramifications on our young, unsuspecting students, teachers, employees, retirees may reverberate for years. While none of you are spring chickens or young roosters, you have not reached my status of old tough hen or cast-out rooster. Those who have further career aspirations take heed. Whomever is recommending hiding the truth and deceit does not have your best interests at heart. I, this community, your employees, truly want you to succeed, yet it is someone or someone's pattern of poor recommendation influencing questionable decisions which continue to bring I and others to this podium voicing questions and concerns. Ms. Ugarte, your comments as president this evening, I am impressed, and you all know it's hard to impress Mrs. Cheers.
Michelle Beal?
On Friday, July 7th, I reached out to the IT department for assistance with Infinite Campus. But to my dismay, I've been left on hold for an unreasonably long period of time with no resolution in sight. In addition, when I contacted Special Services regarding a student issue, I was informed that they are currently understaffed by 3 people and would address my request whenever they find the time. Regrettably, I received similar responses when attempting to reach the district office. What troubles me is that back in December, the district offered an early tell incentive to employees to prevent staffing issues resulting from retirements. However, it's now July, and these vacant positions that have been known since December are still left unfilled. It's perplexing that key positions remain unassigned, especially considering the fact that Human Resources has an additional unbudgeted director since April and has added an additional classified staff this past year. Despite this, they were still unable to respond promptly or fill the positions that have been made aware for months. This is a highly critical time of the year as we prepare for the opening of school. The combination of significant vacancies and the lack of timely responses from various departments creates a perfect storm for a disastrous start to the school year. While I acknowledge the staffing challenges faced by all districts, except seemingly for counselors, as we have counselors eager to come to Sweetwater Union High School District, it's imperative that our district takes assertive action to make ourselves competitive with others. It's essential that we address this issue urgently and ensure that we attract and retain highly talented employees. I urge the district to prioritize this matter, rectify the staffing issues, and provide the necessary resources to support school, site personnel in delivering the education that our students deserve. To make sure that we as a district are doing, what are we as a district doing to make ourselves competitive with other districts remains the question.
Ricardo Cook?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dr. Cook. I'm a former principal here in the district. I came here tonight just to simply say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to serve this great district and this community. And sometimes I don't think you hear about the great things that you have seen in this awesome and amazing cabinet. So I just wanted to personally thank people from Janaea Quirk for the great work she's done in providing me guidance, as well as Mrs. Carbuccia for keeping me out of trouble, Anna Pedrosa for her grace during my opportunity to move forward to some new opportunities. And then, of course, I believe Mrs. Salkeld is one of the best hires I've ever seen, ever done before. She's exceptional. Then I also wanted to thank Dr. Winters, who in my opinion is one of the finest human beings I've ever met, and an educator, and then Dr. Moore for inspiring me about the equity work. And of course, Dr. Geary for your steady leadership. I've always appreciated it. And then last but not least, Dr. Alvarez is someone I have looked up to as someone I want to be more like. Her grace and the manner in which she supports people is something to be commended. And finally, I just want to say I'm fortunate to have been educated in this district as a Viking, as a Spartan, and then I also was fortunate to be a teacher as a Baron, and I was also very fortunate to have served the communities of San Ysidro, National City, and the Eastlake community as an administrator. And so I want to wish you all the best of luck as you move forward. This is a great district. It's very important to me, and I know that you will enjoy future success. So thank you, and I appreciate all the opportunities that this district has provided me. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
No further speakers.
Clerk of the Board, would you please read the items being pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes, the following items are pulled: F3 by staff, F7 by the public, G1 by Mr. Segura, K2 by the public, L1 by the public, Q1 by staff, and R1 by Ms. Emerald and staff.
Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Ringfield,
Yes.
Arencibia,
Yes.
Emerald,
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda,
Yes.
Segura.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
All right, so that takes us to F3. Board communication, anybody want to chime in on anything? I'll just briefly state that my short report would be just a new school year is upon us, and I look forward to seeing all the students at all our schools and all our campuses, and I hope the teachers and all the educators were able to recharge your batteries over the last couple weeks or so, if you had some time off, and enjoy your families and just kind of prepare. I truly look forward to this new school year and the challenges that it brings. But you know, there's a great team here, and I have all the confidence in the world that continue to work smart and hard to provide the best service for our students and support staff. And one other thing I'd like to announce is that I'd like to congratulate my colleague, Dr. Arencibia. He had a article that was published in the UT around art, community art spaces and artists, and how difficult it is to do that in this city. I mean, and not just in Chula, everywhere. It's just very expensive to live here, as we all know. And I always have admired your writing and your poetry from before you were on the board, sir. And that's really it was really well done piece, and hopefully there's some fruit comes from that. And I want to congratulate you on that. And that's the end of my report. Anybody else? Better go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm wishing everybody the best start to this new school year. I look forward to the many events, and I'm hoping that everybody's coming back energized and just ready to go. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say, to everyone, we've had like 8 months of winter for San Diego winter, and I'm glad that we have managed to at least get 2.5, 3 weeks with sun for everybody that's resting. I think that's really important for everyone to actually be rested when they come back. I know this year will be another great year. Thank you for everything that you do, folks.
Trustee Emerald?
I was just wondering if you're looking for a motion to approve.
Oh, no, this is just the reports. Okay, and then let's move to F7.
I have one speaker, Michelle Beal.
Last year at each board meeting, I spoke to and calculated the dollar amounts being paid out in settlement agreements, and it appears that this year will be no different. Tonight's agenda includes $51,100 in settlement agreements being paid for this month. As I read through this agenda item and we discussed it at the agenda review, I tried to wrap my head around why the district continues to find itself in this situation, and then I was immediately reminded of my own recent experience, in which I shared with you, Dr. Aguirre. The district has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaches and administrators, so I'm wondering, is this a piece that we're actually looking at addressing too, to make sure that we as a district are continuing to provide the services to our students with IEPs or any other matter that they are entitled to? That's the question I have, is that something that we've made a primary focus for our administrators and our psychologists this year? Thank you.
No further speakers.
Thank you. Any comments or motions from the board on F7?
Move to approve.
Got a motion, I'll second. Vote, please.
Ringfield,
Yes.
Arencibia,
Yes.
Emerald,
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda,
Yes.
Segura.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
And that takes us to G1.
Yes. Pulled by you?
That was pulled by me. Yeah, if you could bring that up. Let me just say that I fully support all the various studies that we do, African American studies, Chicano studies, Native American studies, but I just couldn't let this go on consent agenda. And really primarily, the main reason is because of the College Board Advanced Placement in American Studies pilot program, or the program. So what I wanted to know is if this is the same program that the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, manipulated the board to remove some of the teachings. I think a couple of them were the Black Lives Matter, and some other I think slavery reparations and other items like that. And then my question is like, you know, what other options does our district provide, or relations, or options, or do we have anything else where that our students can receive college credit courses in this studies, in Black studies, and just what we offer in Black studies in general? Thank you.
Thank you, President Segura. So before I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to respond, I'm glad you mentioned that our district has an unyielding support for our African American students, and we understand the historical context that we must address and that we have a responsibility to address. In addition to other students who may fall under underserved students, this item speaks to our African American students, and we are unyielding in our support. But the question about the College Board, I think, is more complicated. The College Board, I believe, had some conflict over this issue, again, at the national level, not within our district. So I just want to be really clear. So we are looking to build our relationship with Southwestern Community College through a concurrent enrollment process, so that our students also have access to some of the offerings there through the community college program. And we just recently were informed that we, in fact, are in receipt of grant funding to expand our work with our community college here locally. But in terms of the specifics of this particular board item, I'll ask Dr. Alvarez to provide a more in-depth response.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Aguirre. Mr. Segura, that's an excellent question. So in terms of options for our students, we currently do offer an African American Studies course that is available through our district. It does not provide advanced placement credit, but it is a course that's offered. And as you well know, our ethnic studies program is representative of the students that reside in our district, and we are in the second year of that, we just finished the second year of that pilot, and we'll bring it to board for review, as well as an external committee that will also advise to inform our practices, inform the curriculum, and we'll make modifications as such. So we do have alternatives within our own program. The reason that the advanced placement offers some extended opportunities for our students is the college credit that is offered through that. So with the advanced placement, students passing the exam with a 3 or higher have the opportunity to get potential college credit. We do also, through Southwestern College, through the CCAP, the College Community College Access Pathway, as students can take those dual enrollment courses. They can take courses in their Black studies or African American studies and receive and earn college credit as well. So there are some other opportunities. This course is new. It is a pilot program for through 2026. We get a chance to also influence some of the curriculum as we provide feedback through our teachers and through our students. So that is an opportunity that is there that we could potentially shape some of this, and it could be helpful. As you know, we've been trying to find curriculum that is representative of our students. We want them to feel validated, to feel part of the community. And we also want to make sure students that are not African American have an opportunity to take this course and be exposed to become a more well-rounded person. So there's a lot of opportunities in this. I do understand the political nature at the national level and the influences that have occurred through the College Board and, of course, through the Florida issue. However, as a district, I think this can provide some reasonable opportunities for our students to be exposed to good curriculum which we have the ability to also augment and support.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one follow-up question. So in regards to teachers, how does this, the teachers have, are the teachers going to teach us, are in place or had the training, or how does that get rolled out? And then what is their input on this?
Sure. So the way this was offered to all of our high schools in the district. And teachers had the opportunity to volunteer to teach the course. So principals worked with their staff to decide if they wanted to offer the course. Right now, we're not offering it district-wide. We're only offering it at certain schools because teachers had the interest and also had the opportunity to either, they've already been trained through AP by the Sea, which is a local San Diego training for advanced placement courses, or will be trained in August for the program. So they'll have the opportunity to receive training as they're providing the instruction themselves.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
I wanted to bring up something. I just
Trustee.
always want us to keep in mind when these issues become polarized at the level of the national versus the local, that individually, pedagogically speaking, one makes the decision as an instructor, right, to be able to pick out what they are going to include and what they're not going to include, right? And even though the college board may have a framework of references and texts they must address, it's our job as educators to actually pick out the texts that are probably being eliminated because that's part of our life and reality, right? And the more that we try eliminating them and censoring those voices, be it, wherever it is, if it's Toni Morrison or whoever, you're going to pull out, dust tax on the road, things that folks may not necessarily see as important with regards to LGBTQX issues, Black Lives Matters, or the activism that has gotten us to the point that we're at. Instructors have to be able to pick and choose to be able to supplement those things that are missing. And we do that. I mean, I do that. I mean, good instructors do that, right? So I think that this is an important thing to not get caught up into the discussion that's taking place on the national level by folks who are, I don't want to call them outraged, folks that don't really read or don't understand the issue, right? And I think this is something that we have to really trust our teachers and the folks that are working curriculum at both the site level and at the district level to actually create and actually participate. Because I think it's very important that what I love and I'm encouraged by is that everybody is being very affirmative and engaging and supportive, that we are not, that we are going to continue to participate and provide those structures for teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Ancibia. Trustee Emerald.
Thank you very much. And try not to get too distracted by the national events that have occurred, especially with the U.S. Supreme Court decision about giving students opportunities that perhaps they might not have otherwise. But I'm curious, we talk a lot about various ethnicities. What are you doing with regard to our Kumeyaay tradition? So many young people who identify as Hispanic here in this district actually do hail from the Kumeyaay tradition. And will you be rolling out something that gives those young people an opportunity to learn more about the ethnic history of this region itself?
Definitely. One of the elements of the ethnic studies program is to include the Kumeyaay and other indigenous populations within the curriculum.
That is to identify. It's not happening currently?
It's part of the curriculum already. There are some elements that probably need to be expanded, but it is part of the curriculum as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Superintendent.
Thank you, President Segura. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that this dialogue is about how we can include, and it's about inclusivity, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, because I think given a lot of the discussion, debate that's happening at a national level, to be able to be in a place where our discussion is about the teaching and the learning, and we talked about curriculum, and we talked about how we can support our students through inclusivity. I really appreciate that. We can have a question about what's happening at the national level, but here locally, our focus is to make sure that we're empowering our students, that we're seeing our students and listening to our students. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the discussion.
Thank you. There's no further comments. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Ringfield?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, we're gonna go to K2, but I noticed that our Isaiah, your whole family's here, and we want to invite everybody up to take a picture if you're good with that, sir. Well, I saw you're here, so yeah, you know. All right, now let's move to K2.
Yes, I have one speaker, Kathleen Cheers.
In reviewing these numbers, I was triggered by 3 facts. First, our enrollment is declining, resulting in less revenue. Second, Newsom has cut educational funding. Third, District TOSA staff is growing leaps and bounds. Comparing these numbers to past numbers raises concern. Has district leadership considered doing an evaluation of cost effectiveness of district office staff? I ask due to the water cooler conversations discussing the current TOSA situation. It appears the outrage referenced by union leadership a few years ago over increased district office management staff and TOSA positions for some strange reason now appears to no longer be an issue. Yet rather than streamline, more and more are being placed. It might have something to do with those outraged are now in a TOSA position, and I might add permanently. Coming from a Fortune 500 company management career, I have a thorough understanding of fiscal value added. I'm curious why you need managers and TOSAs. Why is it the district office for many years operated successfully with far fewer upper-class employees, yet with a larger budget and considerably more students? What makes this even more troubling is the fact many of our schools will not be staffed properly with the teachers needed. Tough times call for tough decisions. While you are expecting teachers, counselors, and many other departments to operate leaner and meaner, you are choosing to treat the district office as an untouchable. Temporary teachers let go year after year. Sweetwater, the district most sought after as an employee, no longer drawing quality candidates. Then there are those we are losing. Retirements, opportunities elsewhere. You continue to go to the schools, to the programs. You continue to go to the schools, to the programs, to the teachers, and general staff with cuts, putting our students' education at risk. This comment is sounding the alarm of what is here and undoubtedly more to come. This year you may scrape by, but in 2 years, my words will come to fruition, as Dr. Salkeld will not be able to go out to those trees in front and turn those leaves into $1,000 bills. Closing, hopefully Sweetwater will do whatever possible to draw black teachers. What better way to inspire than to have mentors who look like our black students? I thank you very much.
No further speakers.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? I would just like to add before we vote on it, or a motion, is that I truly appreciate, there's been years of work to get us to where we're at. And we're obviously not just looking at the money we have in front of us today. We've been looking for the money that we're gonna possibly have in the next couple of years, or we have, and making decisions based on that. So I'm truly, that's part of the equation, and I truly appreciate Dr. Ageti and Dr. Selkow and the team and all the work, and the board for the work that we've done to get us to where we're at, and for us to continue to be positively certified by the county is a huge accomplishment, and just want to hopefully keep it going, but also showing as much, doing as much as we can for our employees, all our employees. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve. Moved and seconded, vote please.
Ringfield?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Cepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
L1.
I have one speaker, Michelle Bion.
I'd like to start by asking Ms. Salkald if I could get one of those trees. I had previously prepared communication about the number of temporary contracts on tonight's agenda, or more importantly, the lack of counselor temporary contracts listed on tonight's agenda. I'll be honest, my previously prepared comments about the Human Resources Department were extremely harsh, but honest. I've since adjusted my comments, but I still wish to address key areas of concerns that I have shared directly with Assistant Superintendent Pedroza. For those of you not aware, the SUGA contract requires that all excess counselors be placed by May 22nd for the upcoming school year, a task that Human Resources and SUGA completed well before that deadline last school year. At the conclusion of our placements, we were left with a list of vacancies that needed to be staffed, either with RIF counselors, temporary counselors, counselors taking on additional caseload, or substitute counselors. Despite my numerous attempts to have these positions staffed before counselors' return date on July 10th, 2023, some sites still reported with unfilled vacancies. While I realize that some people in this room will say, oh, it's only a 0.2 or a 0.4, how much additional work can that be? I assure you, it is a lot of work to make sure that students get schedules that they are happy with. And Mr. Ringfield can attest to getting a schedule that you're happy with, especially when you are having to assume a caseload for students that you're not familiar with. In speaking with Ms. Pedroza today, I was able to share my concerns with her regarding the district's failure to fill all the remaining vacancies prior to the counselor's return date. I shared my concern of starting the school year with understaffed counseling centers and overworked counselors. I also reminded her of how the work that we do as counselors directly impact that of the teachers. As counselors, we try to be good partners and work to ensure teachers have ample opportunity to prepare for their classes, including knowing how many students will be enrolled. Ms. Pedroza seemed very receptive to my comments and willing to work with SCGA. Fortunately for the district, the counselors always step up and do the work and never penalize the students for the district's shortcomings. But it's extremely unfair that our willingness to always assist seems to be taken for granted and could be perceived as the district taking advantage of our kindness. I certainly hope that that is not the intention. On another note, it was brought to my attention that the district has changed the verbiage in the temporary contract being offered to credentialed staff, something that the Human Resources Department did not share with the association leadership. While this may not be a bargainable issue, it is simply common courtesy to share when you make changes to contracts that affect our members so that they are aware that we know about the changes. The recent actions demonstrated in this matter do not reflect the collaborative working relationships, nor do they foster the positive communication. Both of those are commitments that we made at LMA. I'm sure that we can continue to make the improvements.
Thank you.
No further speakers.
No further. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Ringfield?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you. So that was L1. Now we move to Q1.
For Q1, I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Okay. This item is for him being absent at the last meeting.
Yes.
He requested reimbursement.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion for approval.
Sorry, not reimbursement, compensation.
Compensation.
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Ringfield?
No.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes.
Motion passes 3 yes, 1 absent, 1 recuse.
And we'll move to R1, pulled by Trustee Emerald.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted staff to give us, in layman's terms, what this issue is, so that the public whose properties, developments might be affected will understand that this isn't a new tax, or it's not going to put a greater onus on them, which is what I understand. So who would like to speak to that briefly?
Superintendent?
Thank you, President Segura. So I'll provide the brief overview and then I'll ask Dr. Salkeld. So generally speaking, when a homeowner purchases a home, there's a set of disclosures that come along with that. This is in essence the implementation part of that disclosure, where on an annual basis, this item comes back specific to homes that are part of a Mello-Roos and/or community facilities district. As you can see from the list, there's 20 community facilities districts. Those CFDs, community facility districts, fund different aspects of our capital program, i.e. our facilities program, depending on which portion of the geographic area of our district they are located in. So in essence, this is the implementing methodology, if you will, for those disclosures that are provided to a homeowner upon purchase. Dr. Sokol, if I missed any detail that you'd like to add, please do.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Aguirre, and good evening, President Segura, Board of Trustees, and Cabinet and Community. We actually do have a presentation here from a principal at Special District Financing Administration. And so what we do is this is part of an annual process. It's a very proactive process throughout the year where we do monitor the expenditures for the particular projects that are assigned to those community facilities districts, and then also prepare anticipation for the special tax levy. So it's a process that we gear up for this time frame because we have the resolution for the board's consideration today, so that we can bring forward to the county of San Diego so that they can assess the levy in August. And so we do go through a process of disclosures, as Dr. Aguirre mentioned, but also publications that are done at the end of May and in June to provide notice for this particular meeting. And so we have the principal, Stephen Galt, with SDFA, that will be presenting this information here with the presentation on the methodologies that we go through to evaluate each of those community facility districts to determine the amount that we end up assessing, or the district or the board approves through this resolution. So I'd like to introduce Stephen.
Welcome.
Thank you. Stephen Gald with SDFA, and at the risk of repeating some stuff, because they had a great summary, I could just kind of sit back down. We've got a short presentation here to give you some information as you move forward as a board, approving the assessment of the special taxes within the district's existing community facilities districts for the upcoming fiscal year. So what this item is this is approving a tax, as was mentioned before, that has been on the property, the same properties, since the individuals who own those properties purchased it and were disclosed. And this is a natural process that happens this time of year before we enroll with the County of San Diego. There you go. Just to repeat again, what was said before, the administration of these CFDs, the CFDs are formed once, but they're administrated constantly all the way throughout the year. We've got a number of activities that we coordinate with district staff on, including what we're doing now, which is the calculation of the upcoming fiscal year taxes. One of the questions from the board member was, are we adding a tax to someone? Are we including taxes on properties that didn't have taxes before? The answer is no. This year, there are no additional properties that have been included within the boundaries of the CFD, no property annexed or added. This is just kind of updating you on the status of the properties that are already within the boundaries. Last year, the district's CFDs assessed a special tax on approximately 31,000 units within the school district's boundary. This year, it's actually going to be down to just slightly under 30,000. And that's because each one of these properties, though they're all within, say, the same CFD, they all have a finite obligation to pay the tax. It's not a situation where if you move in, you're going to pay the tax for X amount of years, you sell it, the next guy comes in, he has to start all over. The property pays taxes for X amount of years, and when you satisfy that obligation, then the tax no longer is assessed on your property. You can see from this table, last year, approximately 1,100 parcels within the district's various CFDs satisfied their special tax obligation and will no longer be taxed. And there was 84 new development units built. So these are properties, physical properties that were within the district, but they've just now been developed with a home. So this is going to be the first year they're taxed. So each year, prior to assessing the tax, the district staff and our company goes through a process of evaluating the funding status for each and every property within the school district CFDs. So we take a tremendous amount of time to make sure that each property owner is paying their fair tax, no one's being overtaxed, and no one is being, nobody who has satisfied their obligation continues to receive a tax. So this process has a couple of key stages that I'll go through in a little bit more detail on the following slides. But the first thing is we look at each unit's obligation to fund new seats within schools. We then add to that the obligation of each property owner to make capital improvements to existing schools. And then from there, based on that, we look at what is the appropriate tax levy in the upcoming fiscal year for each one of these units. So here's a sample taken from CFD number 3 of how that first stage is calculated. What is a taxpayer within a CFD's obligation to build new facilities? The way that this is determined is we simply look at, based on historical averages, how many students would we imagine are being generated or would reside within a home within this particular CFD. And you can see here, CFD number 3 funds both middle and high school level seats. And based on the total expected units at build out in CFD number 3, which were about 3,900, that the district would expect to see about 400 middle school students and about 860 high school students. And what that does is then, as we apply that forward based on the cost of construction, we can identify for each of these units how much in the way of obligations the CFD started with, right? But as we mentioned, though we form the CFD once, we administer it ongoing, we then every year look at what has that CFD funded in the way of new seats, and we reduce that amount. So we take on the left-hand side, columns A and B, we take the total projected students for each of the CFD, which is their beginning obligation. We subtract out C and D, which is the number of seats funded at the various districts' sites. And then we get on the right-hand side, the E and F, which is just the unfunded seats times the cost, and we get a total cost funding obligation for each of the CFDs. You can see here for each of your CFDs, all the CFDs have remaining unfunded new seat obligations with the exception of CFD number 2, which funded their obligation several years ago. But you can see, and then you've got a total unfunded new seats obligation of approximately $1 billion. As mentioned before, we take that number and we add to it each property owner's obligation to make pay for improvements on existing school sites. What's important to understand is though a CFD is formed prior to the property being constructed, the CFD runs for a period of a number of years, 30 years. So over that period of time, it would be similar to if you or I purchase a home. We buy a home. I've been in my home for about 17 years. It's time to make improvements to infrastructure. It's time to identify things that are wearing out from wear and tear and make those improvements. And as such, each CFD also has an additional obligation for the cost of projects to extend life. This particular cost estimate is built on the same kind of underlying rationale that the new construction is. How many students would be generated from these homes? But instead of looking at how much would it cost to build a new seat, we look at how much would it cost to maintain a seat. Once we do these calculations, you can see here, we do kind of the same process. We establish under column D here, the cost of the kind of the starting place, what's the obligation to start with, and then we subtract all of the dollars spent by the district to date to get that remaining obligation, which is about $1 billion for this particular line item as well. So in total, as we look at this, we add the cost to extended life, and then the cost funded, and then you get the total amount of outstanding obligations of about $2.16 billion. So what that gives us, the $2.16 billion, what that gives us is what is the remaining obligations of the CFD. But as mentioned before, it's an ongoing process, so we're constantly monitoring what's each CFD's obligation versus what has the district collected and has in the bank to spend on future projects, as well as what we expect to generate in the way of special taxes in the upcoming fiscal year. So here in this box, you'll see a number of different line items. At the top section here looks at last year. So you can see last year, special taxes collected about $30 million, $1.8 million in miscellaneous revenue. About 11 million of that was spent on debt service. So these are bonds that have been issued by the district to build facilities in the past. Then you've got administrative costs, construction oversight, as well as the district's ongoing pay-as-you-go expenditures for ongoing construction projects. We do the same thing on the bottom where we look at the same types of line items. What do we think we're going to collect versus what we're spending? And then how much are we going to be expending towards pay-as-you-go projects? And those projects can either fall into the category of new construction seats, or kind of that extended life seat. So there's a combination of those items. So what we have here is column A is that 2.16 billion in outstanding underfunded obligations. Column B is the projected ending fund balance at the end of this next fiscal year. So this is after you put the taxes. If you approve the taxes in line with the recommendation of staff tonight, we'll put those on the roll, and those will be collected over the next fiscal year. And we expect the next time we're in front of you, next July, that the remaining unfunded obligation resulting from the collection of those taxes will be about $1.98 billion. So the County of San Diego, even though the district has put these taxes in place, and we, as a sponsoring entity, you're responsible for this ongoing administration, we are not responsible for taxing and billing individually each and every property owner. The County of San Diego allows you to enroll that tax alongside of other property taxes and move that through the property tax system, so that it shows up on the same tax bill that any other property tax would be. However, in order to do that, the county does require that there is a resolution annually passed by the board, and that is done, and all of the various pieces of paperwork are put in and approved by the county assessor no later than August 10th of 2023. So the resolution this evening establishes the maximum special tax rates for properties in which will be levied for the first time in fiscal year 23-24, and also establishes the tax rate that will be assessed on the balance of the properties within the CFDs. And that gives us the information that we need to move forward and work with the county to get you on the roll before August 10th. So in the staff recommendation, in past years, the board and staff have put together a program that looks at each and every CFD, and based on the funding status of each CFD, approves a increase of the tax by a 2%, or what we'd say a static or a flat tax. In this instance, the recommendation from staff based on the study completed this fiscal year is in line with what was done last year and I believe the year before, which is that for CFDs that have fully funded their new construction obligation, no index will apply. As mentioned before in the prior slide, that applies to CFD number 2 only. And then for the balance of the CFD that the district would apply the automatic 2% escalator. And as you can see here, there are two categories of CFDs then. One category receives 100% of the maximum, and then based on past practice, the other category receives approximately 98% of the total maximum tax. So that kind of is a brief outline. I know there's a lot of information there on the process that the district and district staff and consultants go through to kind of update the funding status of each of the CFDs. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you very much. That was a real understandable explanation of this for people who aren't as initiated as many of the people here in this room are. And I needed to kind of be able to massage that in my head, too. So do we anticipate there will someday be none of these taxes paid? Or do we continue to deposit money into these accounts so that we can continue to build, add extra seats, and so forth?
So the way the program is set up is that we've established a methodology for identifying the obligation of each of the taxpayers. So what, what the future will happen, we'll kind of see as the increase in the costs associated with building schools and maintaining schools goes up. But you would imagine that, like CFD number 2, as we move forward, other CFDs will go through the kind of the natural maturity cycle of going from a 2% escalator to a 0% escalator and then falling off. However, no matter what happens, as was illustrated in the second slide, there will be property owners continuously every year on a go-forward basis completing their obligation to the school district.
Yeah.
So
Now,
it'll naturally wind down over time.
the staff here at the district is anticipating a drop in our student enrollment over the next few years. Will that be impacting the reports we see in the coming years?
So if I may, the impact is probably going to be felt in terms of new construction, as our consultant indicated. Really, there's two aspects to the CFD. One is for new construction, the other is for extending the life cycle of a facility. So in terms of extending a life cycle facility, there's still that ongoing need. Again, this isn't necessarily specific to the levies placed on APN basis, the assessor's parcel number. So it's really even more granular than saying the entire of CFD2 or CFD3 is going to fall off. It's the granularity exists in that it's based on your assessor's parcel number. So you could have a CFD that's been in existence for 20 years, but the development permits have not been pulled. When those are pulled, that is in essence when the clock starts ticking. So that's one of the kind of the finer details of how CFDs function.
Thank you. I appreciate this primer on this issue.
I did have a question more so probably for public consumption. Can you discuss for us if this funding is available for paying staff, for example, teachers or principals, or is this specific to capital projects like facilities?
Yeah, so the short answer is this is specific to capital facilities, and potential, and you saw some administrative costs associated with the assessment of the tax and the execution of the projects. That is not a limitation that's put on by the school district. That is a limitation that's innate in the Belarus Act, which is the activating underlying legislation for the establishment of CFDs.
Yeah, so we can't use this for salaries or whatnot.
Correct.
I have another question. This is just for Sweetwater, but I know that in my tax bill, I also see Chula Vista Elementary as well.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, so these are the CFDs established by the Sweetwater Union High School District. In I think most, if not every case, in your community, there's also a kind of a mirrored tax structure for the Chula Vista Elementary School District as well. In addition to that, there are a number of other educational agencies throughout the county that go through the same process every year of enrolling special taxes on the county levy.
All right, if there's no other questions, I entertain a motion for R1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Wingfield?
Yes.
Arencibia?
Yes.
Emerald?
Yes.
Lopez Zepeda?
Yes.
Segura?
Yes,
Motion passes 4 yes, 1 absent.
and that's the last one, and we are adjourned. Thank you.